So I'm really interested in how we can come together to transform spaces and to amplify interesting ideas in the built environment. So I work with architects and product manufacturers and people that do really great work in the built environment to change things.
Orbiting 250 miles above, the space station provides us with the ultimate view of planet Earth. From this perspective, we ask our guests to engage with 6 questions that orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness. For the next few minutes, this is our Wonderspace.
Welcome to the 120th episode of the Wonderspace Podcast. My name is Steve Cole, and over the past 3 years, I have asked the same 6 questions to people from around the world. Questions that orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness. This week on Wonderspace, we orbit with Vanessa Norwood. Vanessa lives in Brighton in the UK and is a curator and cultural strategist for the built environment. She uses culture to create platforms for positive change, focusing on the central role materials play in building a more sustainable and equitable world. Vanessa was nominated by architect and author Marwa Al-Sabouni, who engaged with our 6 questions from her home in Homs in Syria, which you can hear in episode 78. With this expansive overview of Earth, I start by asking Vanessa if we could do a flypast over any part of the world that is significant to you. Which place, city or country would it be and why?
So as we're flying across the world, I'm going to be looking out of the spaceship window down at Tirana in Albania, which is a really incredible country. And I've been lucky enough to work there recently at the invitation of the very energetic and forward-thinking and incredible Prime Minister Edi Rama, who actually trains an artist. And I think perhaps every world leader should have an artistic background to give them a different worldview. So I was invited there in 2015 and I worked with the equally brilliant Minister of Culture, Mirella Cambero, and she was leading a project on transforming 4 buildings in the heart of Tirana, breathing new life into them. Albania's had a very difficult political history, and up until 1991 was a very isolated country, probably one of the most isolated countries in the world, actually, run by communist dictator Enver Hoxha. And Edi Rama's leading a very forward-thinking government on how to really transform Albania and Tirana into a 21st century country. And so I was lucky enough to be part of that journey. It's an incredible place, really beautiful, lovely people, amazing food. It's between Greece and Italy. So you'll eat some of the best food you'll eat anywhere in the world, I think. And it's been really interesting in the few years that I got to go and be part of their journey. I saw the transformation. So, for example, they have one of the biggest public squares, certainly in Europe, a place called Skanderbeg Square. And when I first went, it was choked with traffic and the traffic wasn't always behaving well. Like people would drive over the middle of the sort of small bit of grass to get to do a shortcut across the other traffic. And now they've transformed this place into a public square with Belgian architects 51 N4E and Albanian artist Anne-Marie Salet, and it's incredible. So I love what Edi Rama's been doing there. It's been overseeing a transformation with culture at its heart. And he started off by painting, when he was mayor, he painted all the communist buildings that were very grey and austere in bright colours, and it just ignited civic pride. So it's been a real joy and a privilege to witness what they're doing in Albania. And so that's what we're looking at out of the window. But I would say rather than look at it from afar, people should go and visit and see it for themselves.
Vanessa, give us a glimpse into your life story so far, with an emphasis on what you are doing currently.
So currently, I'm a curator and cultural strategist, having just set up my own business, my business of one. I am my own boss. In April of this year, so really focusing on doing projects in the built environment. So I've got a background as an architecture curator, which is probably a strange thing to be, but has allowed me to get some really amazing cultural projects off the ground that talk about architecture and the built environment. So I'm really interested in how we can come together to transform spaces and to amplify interesting ideas in the built environment. So I work with architects and product manufacturers and people that do really great work in the built environment to change things. Actually, the built environment is responsible for almost 40% of the Earth's carbon emissions. So it's a really interesting and important time to be part of this journey. So I did fine art in Brighton, and I'm actually living back in Brighton now, very, very close to the place I was born. So I've done a sort of loop through living in London, and now I'm back by the sea, the pull of the sea. And I have got to work on some really great projects. Having studied fine art, which is a brilliant place to start your career, but does make it slightly challenging to know which direction to go in and how to find paid work. So I ended up working at the Architectural Association in London, which is a very famous and quite experimental and interesting school of architecture in the heart of London. And I put on exhibitions and talks about architecture. So I've always been interested in amplifying the voices of people working in the built environment. I then worked at the Building Centre, where I was creative director until recently, and I put on a programme of exhibitions. So I'm really interested in how by telling positive stories about the built environment, we can be part of change collectively. So I've got to work with some incredible people from Material Cultures, the brilliant stonemasonry company who are working in stone, and I'm still lucky enough to be working with them now. Great architects like Deraika Marsh-Morgan, Group Work, Material Cultures, looking at how we can positively transform the way we work in the built environment. I've co-curated with Vicky Richardson the British Pavilion for the Venice Architecture Biennale. This year I was a guest curator for the Open House Festival, opening up buildings in the City of London and looking at how they're transforming to a sustainable future through their climate action strategy.
Where on earth is your place of reset or recharge?
I'm lucky to live in Brighton, so we have an edge in Brighton, which is the sea. So I spend a lot of time, now I work for myself, I find I'm a very lenient boss, and I'm very aware of the power of taking time out to recalibrate and to think. And especially because I am starting my own business, my own consultancy, I feel like it's really important to think about what I want to do. And in the meantime, to have a latte. So I spend a lot of time sitting on the beach or swimming in the sea. So I'm about 10 minutes away on my bicycle from the sea front. So most days I'll go down there and I'll either, if the weather's not great, I'll take a flask of coffee and I'll sit there and just stare at the sea. And if it's lovely, I'll go for a swim. And I just find that hour of staring out at the horizon is really incredibly important for me, just to put everything in perspective, to think about what I want to do and just have that amazing moment of calm. And so I'm drawn to the piers in Brighton. There's the West Pier that is become it's a ruin. It got burnt in a fire and it's become sort of a symbol of Brighton. It looks quite beautiful. It looks like a drawing in the sea. So that's actually a lovely place to sit and look. And when the starlings are migrating, they gather there before they fly across the sort of horizon in Brighton. And so that's also a place where people come together to watch that happen and to watch the sunset. So in Brighton, that's almost become like a place of communal, I want to say worship, but it obviously has no religious connotation, but it's really communal and it's an incredible place to be. So that's the place I go where I want to see something amazing or just sit and daydream and have a coffee with myself. It's lovely.
What wonder of the natural world excites you the most?
So for me, the power of water is incredibly important. I mean, obviously living in Brighton, I stare at the water a lot. I'm amazed by the act of the tides, that pulling in and out, and the effect the moon have. I still don't fully understand how it works because it's just so incredible. And I think water is a resource that we're all becoming really aware of. It gets used in ways that we're not really taking care of it in the built environment. It gets sort of sucked up to make concrete. It doesn't get the credit it's due. I mean, we were starting to realize how an important resource water is and how we need to be careful. But just visiting water phenomenons like waterfalls, I'm so in awe of the power of water, the way it can carve through the hardest of stone, I mean, over millennia normally, but it's just such an incredible thing to witness. So if ever I get the chance to see a waterfall, it reminds me of how important and powerful water is.
Whilst orbiting around wonder, here is another 1-minute wonder from our friends at Ask Nature, who look to nature for inspiration to solve design problems in a regenerative way.
Have you ever stopped to realize how important your heels are? The way they stick out behind your ankles makes them a critical part of the lever mechanism that enables vertebrates like us to move with speed on land. During a hop or a running stride, as the toes hit the ground, the lower leg rotates forward above them, shrinking the angle between the leg and toes, but widening the angle between leg and heel. This stretches the Achilles tendon, storing up elastic energy that helps propel us forward. The springiness of the tendon can actually recover a lot of the energy spent in the previous step or hop, increasing our efficiency significantly. While humans, turkeys, wolves, and horses all make impressive use of this feature of vertebrate anatomy, the global champions are the kangaroos and wallabies. Their enormous toes and thick tendons can actually give back 90% of the energy they store to propel these animals forward, allowing them to dramatically increase speed with very little increase in effort.
Vanessa, what is your story of hopefulness that's not your own, about a person, business or non-profit who are doing amazing things for the world?
In the built environment right now, there's lots of challenges, but I feel like we're at a real moment of hope, actually, hope for positive change. There's lots of people doing great work around the environment, but the built environment has never been particularly inclusive. It's been sort of white, male, middle class dominated. It's a very expensive profession to train for. It's been not as inclusive as it should have been, and things are really starting to change. There's some incredible groups of people doing great work in the built environment to make sure it's more inclusive and to make sure different voices are getting heard and to make sure young people have a chance to be part of it, because it's massively important that we have different people from different backgrounds being part of the way that we're going to live in the future. And often younger people, I think probably always we should be listening to younger people. They're much more expansive in their thinking, and they're going to be living in the world that we're creating. So there's some great people, Resolve Collective, Poor Collective, the Incredibles, Sabine Settler has set up something called Design Can. But I'm really impressed and moved by the work that Neil Pinder is doing for Homegrown Plus. And it is a not-for-profit charity that he's set up. He's a teacher in South London, and he set up Homegrown Plus as a way of getting kids, young people involved in architecture in a really proactive way. He's an incredible character. He's full of enthusiasm and energy, and I think he could persuade anyone to do anything. But he's actually doing things where he's fundraised to take a group of young people to New York to be part of architectural education. They'll go for a week and they'll look around, they'll meet really amazing people working in the field of architecture. And I think that getting to go somewhere like New York and be part of that story is life-changing for young people that wouldn't normally get to have an opportunity like that. So I would like to shout out Neil Pinder, because he is incredible. He's making a real real change to people's lives in a way that isn't just about talking about it or creating platforms that are intellectual. He's actually doing it. He's changing young people's lives, and the built environment is going to massively benefit from the work he's doing. So shout out, Neil.
Finally, as we prepare to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, what insight, wisdom or question would you like to share with us?
So as I started off on my journey to working on my own, to setting up my own consultancy, it happened quite quickly. And I didn't have a chance to put together a business plan or to really think about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And when people said, "Oh, what are you doing now?" I would just calmly say, "I'm going to do good things with good people." And I think actually that is a mantra that is important to me. I think by finding who is doing really good stuff and stuff that you believe in, you can help. You can be part of that story. You can find a way to collectively come together to make good stuff happen. And it's something I really believe in. Like individually, we don't need to have any answers, let alone all the answers, but collectively we may be able to make a change. So my advice to anyone thinking about what they want to do is just, do good things with good people and positive change will happen.
To find out more about the work of Vanessa, go to vanessanorman.com. I want to thank Vanessa for joining us on Wonderspace this week and for engaging with our 6 questions in such a compelling way. I finish with a question to you, our listeners. What is your story of hopefulness that's not your own, about a person, business or non-profit who are doing amazing things for the world? A story that makes a name for someone else. Thanks for listening.